One of the most bizarre stories coming out of the Superstition Mountains, which is saying a great deal, is that of the search for the crystal skull. The crystal skull is said to be an ancient Aztec artifact with mystical properties. In the summer of 1980, one Joe Mays showed up trying to recruit guides and horses for a trek into the mountains to hunt for the crystal skull. It was July, with the temperatures hovering around 110 degrees. The locals weren't too interested in the crystal skull, but they were very interested in all of the crisp $100 bills that Mays was splashing about. Mays brought a small crew with him and contracted with Peralta Stables and local guides for support. He intended to go into the mountains for 3 weeks. As it turns out, Mays was spending an investor's money, and was spending it very lavishly. In the end, some $20,000, $60,000 in today's money. Mays was a con man, using an ancient book as his bona fides for the investors. Unfortunately for Mays, his investors were an unsavory lot who were used to getting a high return on their money. The investors suggested to Mays that his next stop would be the Atlantic Ocean in a pair of cement overshoes unless he produced fast. After a few more days of fumbling about the Superstition Mountains, Mays came up with the brilliant idea. He convinced the investors that they should make a video documentary that would make millions. Mays had the gift of gab, and the investors bought into the scheme. Interestingly, this was a scam within a scam. The crystal skull is a 19th century conman scam. In the late 19th century, when European interest in ancient culture was at its peak, clever conmen went to work. Crystal skulls, supposedly of pre-Columbian Aztec or Mayan origin, soon appeared in major museums in England and France. It was one Eugene Bobin, an antiquities dealer, who opened up his shop in Paris in 1870, who is most associated with 19th century museum collections of crystal skulls. Bobin is said to have tried to sell a crystal skull to Mexico's National Museum as an Aztec artifact, but was unsuccessful. Bobin later moved his business to New York City. The skull was exhibited at a meeting of the American Association for the Advancement of Science in New York. It was sold at auction and bought by Tiffany and Company, who later sold it at cost to the British Museum in 1897. The French were no more clever than the British when it came to skulls. The crystal skull in the Museum of Man in Paris was donated by Alphonse Binart, an ethnographer who had bought it from the conman Eugene Bobin. It was not until the 20th century that the truth came out. Studies demonstrated that the skulls were manufactured in the mid-19th century. The skulls were crafted in the 19th century in Germany, quite likely at workshops in the town of Eder Oberstein, which was renowned for crafting objects made from imported Brazilian quartz. This type of crystal was determined to be only found in Madagascar and Brazil, and thus unknown to the Aztecs or Maya. In 1992, the Smithsonian investigated a crystal skull provided by an anonymous donor. Supposedly, the artifact was of Aztec origin. the investigation concluded that this skull was made in the 1950s or later.